We'll start with your outlook. Last year wasn't a great year for the metals and mining sector. What are CEOs doing differently this year to add shareholder value, Ivan?
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And if you don't know me by reputation, by name, I've been doing this for 24 years. Found some great gold discoveries, monetized those for shareholders, and got to explore this bear market that you've just referenced. And last year was a very difficult year. Right now, I think CEOs are two things. They're trying to keep their companies alive, and they're trying to position themselves for the next upturn in metals, which I think is really unpredictable. In my world, what we've done about 3.5 years ago, we split out a company. It was a company called Auryn Resources, where we went and raised over $120 million looking for the world's largest mines with some geologists from Newmont. We found copper, gold, and silver opportunities, and we spun the copper and the silver opportunities out and converted Auryn into a gold company. When we did that, we had a forecast of metals performing incredibly well, but that didn't go so well after the interest rates rising on the backside of COVID. However, we've come to a point now where copper's heading into deficit, and I'm currently the CEO of Copernico Metals, which is not trading yet, but it's a public company and should trade in the next 60 to 90 days. This project I've been after for the last 8 years of my life with a great team, community team that's lived in the communities. We've had social access. We lost the renewal as COVID started, and then we got back into it here just late last November. And the opportunity is to go find a top 10 copper mine in the world. And that opportunity is supported by a lot of evidence. It's in southern Peru. It's near a mine called Las Bambas, which is our analog amongst several other mines near it. And we've seen hundreds of meters of copper mineralization on surface. We've seen depth targets that go down north of 2 kilometers and total of about 10 kilometers on surface of strike length. The most important validation, which happened as of last Thursday, January 17th, the recent head of exploration from BHP, who retired from BHP last year, has just joined our board as a director, and he invested into the company. The company has a very high-profile asset. It has a discovery potential that could make money in any mining market, but we think this year is going to be the turning year for the metal sector, and we might have one of the world's greatest discoveries to come in the last few decades, and that's really what we're after.
Okay, I'll let you talk more about that company, but you were at Auryn Resources, right? How did you tell us about that career transition?
Yes, so I was the executive chairman at Auryn Resources, and I was leading the raises of over 120 million. And so I had to choose one of 3 assets in that company: the gold portfolio, the silver asset, or the copper asset that I'm now behind. And I didn't choose the easiest one. I like them all. They all have that huge upside potential, but different degrees of risk. I chose the one that had the bigger challenges involved with consistency in the communities and the perseverance to keep this asset alive. And I've had to do 2 financings since the SpinCo at a time where we didn't have social access, at a time where the market was falling apart. And based on my track record and my ability, my experience, as well as writing checks, I was able to fund this company and get it to this point where it is today. So, in my career, prior to that, I sold Caden to Agnico Eagle. After 100 drill holes, we sold it for $200 million. That's what gave me the pedigree and the ability to go do Auryn. But ultimately, it's about learning and taking what you've learned, the investors that support you, and advancing it to go after something even bigger each time. And Sombrero is the biggest thing that I've seen so far in my career.
What has been the biggest challenge for you thus far at Copernico? And you mentioned you haven't launched yet, so pre-launch phase. Biggest challenges you can share with us?
Yeah, the biggest challenge for us has been getting social access in this community in southern Peru. And the way we did that was we brought in agricultural programs. We have an animal health specialist. We have an agricultural engineer. And we brought in about $500,000 of agricultural programs. We brought cows, we brought lambs, we brought fish farms into the Andes where nutrition is a factor. And from that, we went out and developed a long-standing relationship with the communities where their success truly is our success. We took the long road. Each member we sat with, as David and I are sitting here, and they got to know us over 8 years. And so that was the biggest challenge. We solved it by being great citizens, respecting them. Everything we've done is sustainable. Not only have we got grants from the government to pay for it, the community has invested into it as well. But that's been our biggest challenge. And the next challenge is going to be, can we find the grade and the width that meets that goal of finding one of the top 10 mines in the world? And so I look forward to that because that's where the reward comes. In the next 30 days, it's going to be the get ready to list the company and go drilling phase. We are not trading today, but we plan to be trading sometime in March or April. We'll work on an ASAP basis now that we have access, but we start resuming work on the property, providing jobs as of February 1st. So we're about to get active after being somewhat quiet for the last 3 years.
Where are you going to list?
So the goal is to list in the Toronto Stock Exchange or the TSX Venture, but right now we're aiming towards the Toronto Stock Exchange, and we meet a lot of the criteria, but that's all subject to exchange approval, which should come here in the not too far future.
We have a few minutes left. Let's talk about copper itself. So some people have told me on my show, the David Lynn Report, that copper has been a good leading indicator for economic growth, strength, or weakness. Is that more or less true?
Interesting stat, Dr. Copper. When the economy is good, there's a lot of development, a lot of demand for copper. We now have modernization, electrification. We all know about that. Climate change initiatives around the world. I read this morning that 70% though of industry is service industry now, and copper, Dr. Copper, that correlation is not quite as correlative as it was before. But China is the 50% of the consumer of copper, and that's always going to be a driving factor. I think the resilience in copper has been the buy signal in the last 6 months that has held $3.75 a pound. I think that's been a true indicator that copper is going to do well, and the economy won't do that as badly as people are foreseeing it to do. So in my view, the supply deficits come from the mining side. Less mines are being found. It's harder to find a mine. It takes much longer, 25, 30 years, to bring a big copper mine online. And if you look at the top 10 copper mines in the world, 3 of them are going to be expiring in the next 15 to 20 years. So there's going to be a real crunch on supply, irrelevant of the strength of the economy. But I think any slowdown in the economy is going to be mitigated with new demands for copper, as we're seeing through the electrification.